hopefully everyone should see that notification pop on, recording has started. And I want to officially welcome all of you to our August water cooler. Very exciting stuff. We have two guest speakers with us today to lead our water cooler discussion around voting rights from our expert self-advocates. So with us today, we have Joe Damiano, who is a part of our member advisory board. And Joe's really going to be taking the lead on, this discussion. And then also with Joe today, we have BJ Stasio, another one of our members of our member advisory board, who will also be sort of co-facilitating this session here. So you all should see that the chat box has been turned off. So if you do have any questions, please make sure that you put them into the Q&A. We will sort of address any questions at the end of the session. So once Joe and BJ go through the content, we will, open up that Q&A towards the end of the session and hopefully get some of those questions answered for you. So at this point, Joe, I will turn it over to you to start the discussion, and you just let me know when you want me to switch the slides.
All right, you can switch the slides, Carly. So we are going first to BJ. He's going to talk about his voting story. BJ?
Thank you, Joe, and thank you all for being here today. It's an honor to talk about something that is so important to me, voting. And I've been a long time advocate and worked on many different things, and it's an honor again to work with my partner in voting, Joe. And Joe's a great guy. And my voting story was simply this: I'm not going to age myself, but it's been a while since I first voted. And when I first voted, I always say that was my first real advocacy choice because it was my choice alone to make. Everybody's vote is their vote alone to cast and shouldn't be influenced by anybody. So for me, the first time I voted was really important, and that's why I feel that voting is somebody's first real advocacy choice if they've never advocated before. So that's basically my story, and I'm I'm excited to vote this election coming up because it's a very important election. All elections are important, but especially this one. Next.
This is you again, buddy.
Okay, thanks. I gotta get rid of the recording thing. Hold on a second. It's distracting. Yes. Here we go. My vote counts. These are some web links. I don't know if did we want to have people watch it, Joe?
I was thinking so as it wasn't too much by clicking on the link.
You think we can do that, Carly, or is that too much?
Your right to vote. You may wonder, does my one vote...
Can everybody hear that okay?
Ask Julia Mejia, who won a seat on Boston City Council in 2019 by just one vote. Or Bart Laban, who was elected to the Alaskan State Legislature by a single ballot in 2018. Throughout our history, people denied access to the ballot have fought for their rights and yours. In America, we do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate. Who you vote for impacts everyday life and the most important issues in your life. Voting accessibility for the elderly and handicapped, the Americans with Disabilities Act, Help America Vote Act. These milestones were possible because people voted.
My vote counts. My vote counts.
My vote counts.
ASL, my vote counts.
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 So, your right to vote. To call the Erie County Board of Elections, dial 716-853-8891.
Yes, and that was put together by a group of us here in Western New York. We went to the Erie County Board of Elections and got a group together and filmed that. They were awesome. That was done on the spot in the moment, so they were awesome.
Okay, this is you again.
Yep, I got it. Example one, we elect a president of the United States who believes in civil rights. Next. The president tells the Department of Justice to proactively enforce the Olmstead decision. The Department of Justice investigates a state and forces them to use their money to provide services in the community, not just in institutions. Next. The people with IDD in that state get more choices over where they can live with state supports. Next. Every vote counts. 2019 Queens District Attorney race, Melinda Katz versus Tiffany Cabin. Next. Katz won the election by 55 votes, a 0.6 margin of 6% margin of victory. So see, every vote matters. Go ahead, you can click that.
What would you say to someone who says, my vote doesn't matter?
Oh my God. Okay, can I just say that, like, let me be your cautionary tale. Because I ran a race for DA, right? Like, I lost a race before I won one, in a borough of 2.5 million people, and we fell short by 55 votes. And that is, if you do the math, it ended up being a difference of 0.06 of 1%, 600th of 1% was the margin in that race. And so I am here to tell you that absolutely every single vote.
What would you say?
Next. Oh yes, this is my favorite memory knot, and I can freely admit that the 2021 mayoral race for me as a city of Buffalo resident was a letdown because Mayor India Walton won the primary. She was the only one on the ballot, for those of you who live in the city of Buffalo who remember this race. But Mayor Brown got himself in as a write-in candidate, and as we all know, he won the write-in. He got 55,000, roughly 55,000 write-in votes, even though India Walton was the only one on the ballot. He won because of all the write-ins he got. So it was really disappointing to me. One in every five voted in the primary where Walton was victorious. Three in every five voters voted in the general where Brown was victorious, for example. And this one I remember vividly. For those of you who don't know, Senator John Mannion, who is now running for Congress, is currently the disabilities chair in the Senate, and we are really close friends. And his recent election for his Senate seat, he ended up winning by roughly 47 votes. It was a recount. It was a recount because it was so close. They had to count some absentee ballots, and as you can see, there are the numbers of what he voted by. He's as I said, the chairman of the Committee on Disabilities. So now he's running for his Congress seat in the Syracuse area. He will be missed if he wins. hope he does so he can move on to bigger and better things. But he was a great champion for all of us here in New York State. Next.
Okay. This is my one. So how to choose. Ultimately, the choice is yours. You gotta see through the images, what you see on TV compared to what they actually stand for. Vote for perspective, leadership qualities, and experience, and vote because it will at some point affect your life. Okay, this is mine again. Accessible voting machines. It's sometimes called a ballot marketing device, a BMD. Everyone can use them. We have a voting coalition called Web Up New York, and our challenge is to get your elected official to use the accessible voting machine when they cast their ballot. People with disabilities need to know that they can vote. They can always register to vote. They have that inherent right. I don't think everyone knows that.
It's important that everybody knows how to get registered to vote, and then they're not intimidated by the process. So people need to know what their rights are in regard to getting information, finding out about registration, when their elections are coming up, who their officials are that represent them, and then how to use the machines and what options are available for accessibility.
Okay, this is mine too. So how to file a complaint. Complaint procedure, they have a complaint procedure to report the HAVA violations, which is like the BMD malfunction, stuff's happening wrong at the polling site. It guarantees the right to a private and independent vote, and anyone can file. It doesn't have to be a person with a disability.
And before I read this one, I have to give my partner Joe some kudos. That video you saw before with members of person-centered services in there, that was a voting demonstration of two machines that Joe got to come to Western New York so the disability community could try it out. And the bigger one that you saw me on, the ESNS, was going to be the one that my county, Erie County, chose, but due to a lawsuit by members of both parties, that use of the machine is being held up for some reason or another. So we're probably going to go back to old the old box and old the old way of doing things, which as long as it works, I'm fine with. But I really like that new, bigger machine. And congratulations to Joe again for putting that together. You did an awesome job. That was great. Thank you for giving us all an opportunity to try it. All right, this is my favorite slide by far. There's music with it, Carly. Want to play the music? There you go, just to kind of get you pumped up. Okay, we can stop the music so I can. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, and that's where the music comes in, make a plan to vote. Educate others about voting. Hold a voter registration drive at your program, group, or conference. invite the Board of Elections to demonstrate the accessible voting machine, educate others about voting access. Call your Board of Elections and tell them you would like to have input when they select new accessible machines, which is what Joe did. Get your elected officials to use the accessible voting machines when they cast their ballot. Now, those accessible voting machines we keep talking about are available for anybody to use, even though they have the disability symbol on the side of the box or whatever, because you don't know who has whatever kind of disability, and poll workers are not allowed to ask. So if you choose to use the machine, that's totally all right, because the more it gets used, the more importance those who make the decisions will see that they are necessary. The less they are used, they'll be like, oh, we don't have to spend money on that. So I would encourage everybody to use it when they go vote, if they choose to. Next.
This is mine too. So you can register online by going to my.newyork.gov, by mail or in person. Next slide. Okay, to find your assigned polling place, you'd go to photolookup.elections.newyork.gov. Next slide. Now we will open it up for question and answers.
And no question is a dumb question, so fire away.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. I know that we have a few questions in our Q&A. Megan asked, does anyone have any good recommendations for unbiased sources to provide our clients and their families that would list what values and priorities each publicly running candidate holds, similar to Ballotpedia?
Probably the best place to go for me when I want unbiased information is the League of Women Voters, because they have the unbiased information on both parties, because that's their job, to keep people informed and try to avoid all the listening to all the media on TV, because the media doesn't look for really the facts, in my opinion. They look for this sensational thing that each candidate says or does, and the most important thing to do is probably watch the debates and understand about the candidates' issues. And if the family that you work for obviously probably has a loved one with a disability, be sure to focus on the disability issues that they address. I can tell you, last election for president, one candidate did have a platform on what they would do for people with disabilities in the country, and the other did not. So just just something interesting to point out.
Excellent. Thank you. And I know that, thank you to Liam for throwing in some additional resources there as well. And John, I see that you have your hand up, so we can take a break from the Q&A if you want to ask your question out loud.
Sure. I pressed that before. I actually thought I might include it in the Q&A also. But first, I want to thank Joe and BJ for doing this. I know they have lots of good information to share, so thank you for doing this and taking the time and sharing what you know. There are, in addition to what Liam may have shared, there is some helpful information about voting rights posted in Roots. I put the link in the Q&A there. It includes some information I think Liam actually gathered on the do's and don'ts the care coordinator should know related to voting rights. And I was just about to also include a link to our external website that anyone outside our organization can access information about voting rights. That's posted on our website. It's under resources and know your rights. And there's some good, some of the links that was already provided in the presentation are included, and some other information that a care coordinator could share with people that they support, or anyone really can access on our website. Just want to make sure I mention that.
And the Self-Advocacy Association of New York State also has a voting section, and we have a plan to vote document to get ready to vote, whether it be early voting or voting on the day of election day. Just make a plan to vote. So if you have staff or a family member who supports you, it's to kind of remind them to do that. And we worked on that closely with Disability Rights New York and some other advocates around the state. So that's a good thing to use. That's on the Self-Advocacy Association of New York State .org website.
Awesome resources. Thank you all for sharing those. So we have another question in the chat, a really good one. How do we advocate for the accessible voting machine at our voting location?
Believe it or not, under federal law, it is supposed to be accessible and available at every voting location. It is not a request. It is supposed to be there by federal law, and if it is not, you can report it to DRNY as a complaint, and they will take care of it. And you can ask why there isn't one. If you want to wait, there should be, because the federal law says there needs to be one available for all those who choose to use it. So federal law sets that rule.
Beautiful. Right. And then I saw that, Elena, you asked a question about the Vimeo video available, if it's available for us to share on social media platforms. And Liam, thank you for dropping that link in the chat, or in the Q&A, I should say. Lots of good resources going in that Q&A. Beautiful. Any other questions, comments, reactions? I know I don't see anything in the Q&A, but we sort of have a small enough group here that if anybody did want to share anything, please feel free to use that raise hand option in Teams and unmute and share. Liam, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was wondering from Joe and BJ, like in general, how can we bring up like the voting conversation with the people we work with in like a good way? Not as though we aren't like starting like an argument or like a fight. We're not like debating politics, but we're like talking to them about like voting.
Well, here's the way I do it, Liam, and you probably know already. I'm not too shy of a guy. I'll just come up and say, "Did you see that news story about that candidate? What do you think about that?" I don't care which candidate it is. I just love to engage and talk about politics and talk about voting, because the more knowledge we have, the more power we have to make an informed choice.
Joe, did you have anything else to add to that? I want to make sure that we're not missing you in any of that.
No, I think BJ pretty much hit it on the nail.
Beautiful. Great question, Liam. Thank you. What other question? Yes, John, go for it. I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I guess another question for Joe and BJ, for anyone on this webinar that works in care coordination. What would you say, BJ and Joe, that someone who works in care coordination for us could do in an appropriate way to support the people on their caseloads about letting them know about their right to vote?
Well, I'll take it first, and Joe can follow up if he wishes. But I think Joe would agree with me when I would say the first place to bring that up is probably the most appropriate place at the life plan. Don't assume that somebody is registered to vote, or if they wish to vote absentee ballot or go to vote, just ask the question, because it's actually your job at the life plan to ask that question because, you know, OPWD is keeping track of that, believe it or not, just to make sure people's voting rights are being honored and adhered to. Just don't assume people are registered to vote. You, as the care coordinator, it's your job to ask that to make sure. And there's nothing to be embarrassed about. If they are, they'll tell you they are. And if they are and they're not, help them get registered to vote. And if they say to you, I'm not interested, you say maybe we could talk about it after and find out why they're not interested. Maybe there's a thought like some of the stuff that Joe and I shared that voting doesn't matter when actually the smallest margin of victory could could be the candidate you wanted to win or not, as we showed examples of today. Joe, any thoughts?
I think you hit it pretty much on the head. I will say that, and of course, I'm going to one in the Q&A kind of is kind of intertwining, but you need to definitely advocate for their voting rights. Make sure their voting rights are being heard. I know that SANYS has some advocacy resources that for that. Also, I will say, in regards to another question I saw in the Q&A that actually kind of intertwines, that when it comes to like accessible voting machines, they're supposed to have them at every polling site. If they do not, that can be a violation. So definitely report it if you don't, and make sure you ask if they don't say they don't have one. That's something you got to report to the state.
Excellent. This is such great information being shared. Thank you all for your questions. What else? Questions, comments, reactions? I'm seeing some more resources being put in the Q&A as well. Janine, thank you for sharing some of those links that you can reshare in Facebook and Instagram. Beautiful. The more social media sites, the better, I think, right? Get this word out. Right. Well, I know that there is one more slide to share around some contact information. So BJ and Joe, any sort of wrap-up comments or anything that you want to leave us with today, unless there are any other questions or comments?
I will let my partner in this take the last thought because I'm sure we share the same thought. So Joe, take it away.
All I'll say is that remember that everybody has rights, and that I'm grateful that I got to do this presentation. I also give permission for you guys to share among your group, because I really think that this information should be shared. If you ever want us to come back with Helen Helma from DRNY, please let us know, and we will make sure we can set something up with Helen.
That would be amazing. We would love for you to come back. And BJ, anything that you want to say?
No, Joe covered it for me. We've been doing this together. We've been doing this together for a while now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's always great to work with Joe, and I'm glad this is somebody else's passion project as much as it is mine. So
Absolutely. Yeah, you two are a great team. So thank you both for joining us today. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we have this recording. So I will make sure to send that out to, the participants within this session. And Joe and BJ, I'll definitely make sure to send you both that recording as well. And then I'm sure that this recording will also go into the Roots intranet, so that anybody that missed this session, maybe some of you on the call, you have somebody on your team that might benefit from this. It'll be in Roots for them to watch at a later date. So thank you all again for attending our August water cooler. Joe, BJ, you did an awesome job, and we're so appreciative of you. I hope you all have a great rest of your day and an even better rest of your week. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.